Hi everyone, for our video today we'll be talking about the Natasha Denona Contour Sculpting Powder. So I have been using this for work recently and I have enjoyed them like super. And I actually showed this to you guys in a haul video a few weeks ago and I can't believe that I'm only trying this with you guys right now, mainly because I've been so busy, so I really didn't have the time to showcase this on my vlog. And of course, because I've been so tired, like if I have any free time I would spend it to actually relax here at home, do some chores, or spend it with my loved ones. Okay, so I have two colors with me today. So I have one in light, so which is light. Okay, so this is light 01 and this is 02 medium. Now the reason why I decided to buy these two colors is because the main sculpting or contouring powders that I use are from Viseart, which I don't have in front of me right now, so let me go get it. Okay, so it's actually this one. So I use this. So this is the Viseart Highlight and Sculpt palette, so as you guys can see here. So these are the two contouring sculpting powders that I usually use when I'm working, and I was thinking of getting another sculpting powder of the same tones as this, because I didn't want to buy another palette, mainly because if I do, I would get a lot of doubles of colors that I wouldn't be using, especially the highlighting powders or even this deep colored contouring powder. So I was thinking that maybe the contouring powders from Natasha Denona was going to take its place, but if we put them side by side, if I can manage to do so. Right, so as you guys can see, the color tones are quite different from each other, and it's not the colors, so these powders are actually not the colors that I wanted to get, but after using these two contouring powders from Natasha Denona, I could really say that they're actually quite useful, and they're actually quite a nice in-between colors with these Viseart contouring powders. So I kind of like using all of them in tandem together, depending on how much I would like to contour the face. Now these two colors are actually quite beautiful, and the texture of this is actually quite smooth and buttery. Look at that. So of course this is the light shade and this is the medium shade, and what I like about this is that when we swatch it on my arm like this, it feels very smooth, and then they actually glide on quite effortlessly, and they're actually very easy to blend out. Now what I like about these is that they're not super pigmented, wherein it would give me trouble when I'm actually creating contouring on the face, because with me and my makeup sentiments is that I don't really like to contour that much, mainly because I already know that the light actually already helps to contour the face. So because after all, if you're walking around on a daily basis, the sun is always on top of you, and that already creates the shadows that you need on your face to add some natural contouring. So it's only when I am shooting under very strong shooting lights and the light is directly in front of the talent that I'm working with, that's the only time that I contour. But usually the lighting is always above our head or even to the side, things like that. So that really already helps to create the natural contours that we need on the face. So and also one other thing that I like about these two contouring powders from Natasha is that it has a certain warmth to it that I actually love, because sometimes if a contouring powder is too neutral for me, too gray, sometimes it would look like it's muddy on the face. So I do believe that these bronzing powders from Natasha Denona are also good to bronzer to a certain degree. And also one other thing, by the way, I have read on the ingredients list that this has some silica in it, which is actually great. So it's not really like a super matte kind of a powder, but it has a little hint of shimmer in them, wherein it actually already helps to reflect the light back, and it just adds a hint of reflectivity, wherein it already helps tricking the eye into making it look blended onto the skin. So that's actually fantastic on my book. Okay, so let me swatch these again. So I'm gonna turn my camera over so that you guys just can have an idea of how it actually looks like on my skin. Okay, all right, so the first color that I have here is the color light. This is 01. Just gonna run my fingers through it. Look at that, very nice color tones. And if I'm gonna run it here on my arm, you guys can see on how silky it appears, also a little bit velvety to a certain degree, and they just really blend smoothly and nicely. Very beautiful, nice color tones. There's a hint of yellow in it, fantastic, especially if you're someone who has yellow undertones. It will be very good for you as well. Look at that, very nice. So this is light, so this is good for fair skin tones. Okay, the next color that I have here is the color medium, and I'm gonna swatch it right beside that. Okay, now this one has a hint of red on it, which is actually fantastic. So at least it doesn't really deaden the color when it's applied on the face. And it's a tad deeper than light, but the difference in tone is not very stark. So if you're someone who has, let's say, medium to deep skin tones, you might need another shade, a deeper shade, because this one will work for people who have fair to medium skin tones. Okay, so and that's usually the color tones that I've been working with recently, and that's the reason why I was very happy that I got these two. Alright, so that's how these two contouring powders from Natasha Denona looks like swatched on my arm. Now, by the way, I do love the packaging of these contouring powders. I like how sleek it is because it's actually very easy to store in my makeup kit. And I can just stack them beside each other and it doesn't take up so much space. Because there are some products in the market wherein there's like a indentation in the design of the packaging. And I really don't like that because it just takes up too much space in the makeup kit. And with me, I'm always constantly traveling around for work, going from one location to another. I really need all the space in my makeup kit, and I just find that these are actually quite easy to store in my kit. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a hint of foundation, concealer, and some powder on, and then I'm going to show you guys how I actually use these powders, okay? Alright, so I have some foundation down, concealer, powder, and I'm just finishing up my brows at this time. So everything that I'm using right now is going to be listed down in the description box, okay, if you're interested. Okay, so now at this point, I'm going to show you guys how I use these powders from Natasha Denona, and I'm going to start by using the light shade. Now, if I am going to, create a step-by-step process of how I contour, I actually like to start first with the lightest shade and then I go to the deeper shade. Because sometimes you might realize that the contouring or the shadowing that you need doesn't have to be too much, and usually the light shade will actually work in just adding a very nice hint of contouring on the face, a very nice hint of sculpting. So what I want to do is actually like to apply the contouring powder right on top of the bone of my cheekbones here, and this is usually it. So if you can't find it, just tap your finger on your cheekbone and you can actually feel the edge of your bone already, and that's where you're going to apply the powder. Okay, so I have here this Yoshiki brush from Koyudo, and I'm just gonna lightly apply it here. So as you guys can see, there's already some warmth going on, and because of the shape of the brush head here, it's also quite a precise application. And if you are like me and you're finding the color application to be a bit too stark, what you can do is you can always buff out the color at the back of your hand, or if you have a microfiber towel, remove any excess product, and then you just go back with a brush and then you just blend it upward just a little bit. And then I kind of also give a small half smile like this, because it really helps my cheekbones to pop up a little bit. And then that way I can already see where I could begin my blending, which is always at the back point of the bone here near the ears, and then just bring it forward. And I usually stop where my bone normally stops, and that's basically it. I know I'm not the best a model for this because I have the shadow of my beard going on, but I'm just hoping that you guys can see this. Okay, again, you guys can see this has a very nice warmth to it already, and the warmth, that warmth tone is already blending quite nicely into my skin. And it's also kind of like contouring me to a certain degree, which I actually like. Okay, I'm just blending with very light strokes upwards. Now, by the way, make sure that you actually use some powder on top of your foundation before you use this product, because powder glides easier on top of powder, okay? Okay, and just like that, it already gave my cheekbone a very nice sculpted effect, as you guys can see. Nice tone as well. And if I want, I can also add some sculpting in this part. So I'm not even picking up any more product from the pan, but whatever is left here is already adding some depth there, and it just helps to open up the cheekbone and the under eye area. Nice lifted effect too. Again, always apply it at an angle. Okay, look at that, very nice. And then if you're finding that it's a little bit too stark for your taste, you can always go back to your loose translucent setting powder. Get a buffing brush like this and just lightly tap it on top, and then just buff it out. And then it got a very nice softly defined cheekbone. Fantastic, right? Now if you want to become more sculpted with your application, you can always do that. Now I actually prefer to use the angled brush from Sonia G. So this is the Fan A from her newly released Fundamental Face Set. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of this. And I'm just tapping it here on the very top of the bristles there. And I'm concentrating some of the color at the very edge of the rounded bit of the angle of this brush here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay the bristle right on top of my cheekbone again. Lightly tap it, and then with one swooping motion, I'm just going to apply it in a sculpting manner, and then I'm just going to smile a little bit, and then just a teeny tiny bit flick it upward, so that I have a much more sculpted, rounded effect. And with whatever is left on the brush, I'm just going to brush the product upward, just so really buff it. And what's so nice about this brush is that because you concentrate all of the color in this part, and when you start to really blend the color, and you reach the tip of the bristle of the brush head here, it already blends out the color for you. And then you have a very nice gradation of color, wherein you have a much more deeper application of the contouring powder on this part of the face, and then you have a much more lighter application of color on this part. And the reason why I'm sculpting my cheeks like this a little bit is because my cheeks are very, very round, and this just helps me in cutting down the roundness, if you know what I mean. And it just creates a much more really sculpted effect. Now, pardon by the way if the light keeps on changing. I'm shooting under natural light right now, and it's a little bit cloudy, and I think it's because at the time that I am shooting this video, two volcanoes are currently quite active, and they spewed out smoke. So I think we have some volcanic haze going on here in Metro Manila. So I'm just continuing to buffing up the color, putting it in an upward motion, and then trying to ensure that I have a very nice, very softly defined cheekbone. And I'm just gonna pick up a little bit more, and I'm gonna apply that here. Oops, I think I added way too much. So just be also careful, because this brush head is actually very, very strong. It's going to pick up a ton of product, and because of the strength, it's also going to help you blend it out, especially if you've been a little bit heavy-handed with your application. Okay, so this is actually the two ways I like to apply contouring on the face, and I like using these two brushes in doing so. So of course they have very different finishes and very different looks, and as you guys can see, you have a very soft application of color here, but the color impact is more intense than this one, but this one has a more sculpted effect, which I also actually like. Okay, and if also you do want to, you can get like, you know, a nice brush like this, and you just pick up a little bit of the product on the pan, and you can always add that, like, you know, in the outer perimeter of the face, near your hairline, because this can really also help, like, you know, add some shadow there if you just want to minimize the appearance of your forehead. Now, I'm actually already quite happy with the way that the color light has actually applied contouring on my face, but you know, just for the sake of doing this video, if I want to intensify it a bit, that's when I actually get that medium color. So with the brush that I used earlier, I'm going to pick up a little bit of this, and I'm going to apply it on top of that color, then remove any excess on a microfiber towel here on my table, and I'm going to blend both colors together. So that's the thing with me, is like I actually like to layer two colors together, especially when I'm not sure. I always start with a light color first for contouring, and then if I find that I want to add more intensity, that's when I go and add a deeper shade. Then I'm going to get the brush that I use for the loose translucent setting powder, and I'm just going to buff some loose powder on top of that. And I'm also going to try to blend it at the same time. So we have a very nice, you know, seamless application of color. So now that the sun is out, I think you guys can see on how very nicely this powder actually contours the face. Very, very nice. Now, by the way, I'm actually, like, you know, quite happy to be doing this, because this is the first time I'm trying out Natasha Denona's products, and I'm liking it so far. So I've actually been very intrigued with her products. Like, you know, I know she has been releasing a lot of, like, you know, eyeshadow palettes, things like that, but, like, you know, I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes with me already, and I don't want to add anything that I might not be like, you know, using in the future. But if there's one eyeshadow palette that I would like to try from her, it's her oh my god, I forgot the name, but it's the palette wherein you have a lot of, like, you know, the very nice, like, you know, black tones, silver tones, and like, you know, I think I want to get that because that could be a nice addition into my kit. So if you're a fan of Natasha Denona, by the way, and, like, you know, if you want me to try something, please let me know what, and maybe I might decide to go and get one. Okay, all right, so I have the medium 2 now on the Fan A brush from Sonia G, and I'm just going to lightly tap the color. As you guys can see, the red tones, the warm tones of the medium shade is already coming out. So if you're someone who has medium skin tones with red undertones, it should be perfect for you. But if you're someone like me, who has some olive in your skin tones, who's also a little bit warm, I think light would be also perfect for you to use, as you saw me use it earlier. Okay, so I digress. So let me just buff out the color and just blend it. Okay, fantastic. And then with the brush, with some loose translucent powder, just going to add to blend it out. Now, the reason why I'm constantly blending it out with some loose powder is because we will be using some blushes right after this, okay? Now, at this point, like, usually depending on, like, you know, the look that I'm going for, or, like, you know, the person that I'm working with, if I've added some contouring powder and, like, you know, I just want to completely diffuse it, I actually get a finishing powder. So I have my Guerlain Meteorites here, and I'm just going to pick up a little bit of this, and I'm going to apply this on top of the contouring powder. And because this has a very nice golden tone to it, so it's like a bronzer to a certain degree, even if it's a finishing powder, they kind of like blend very well together. And it adds this very nice, like, you know, golden tone into my cheekbones. And as you guys can see, it's actually already blending very well. And it's giving, like, you know, my skin a very nice sun-kissed look, but it's also quite blended at the same time. Very beautiful. So if you're someone who doesn't like to wear blushes, but if you just want to wear some contouring powder, like, you know, to add some definition and dimension into your face, using a finishing powder on top of that really helps to bring everything together. And this is how it looks like. What do you guys think? Do you guys approve? Let me know in the comments box, okay? Alright, so at this point, I'm going to be using a blush on top of this. Now, even if this powder has some silica in it, so it has some shimmer on it, I actually like to use like, blushers with some shimmer and glitter on them because I find that they actually blend well together if I do so. So this is my Armani blush. It's fairly new, so this is the first time that I'm using this. So this color has a very nice, peachy pinky shade, and it has some golden glitters on it. So it kind of like reminds me of the Orgasm X blush. So I'm just gonna remove any excess blush on the back of my hand, and I'm just gonna lightly apply the blush on top of my cheekbones. And I'm also ensuring that the brush is actually also applying the color right on top of my cheekbones. That way the color is already blending with the contouring powder. And the contouring powder is just going to add a hint of depth into the blush. It's also going to help to blend out the colors together. Okay, so I'm just building up the intensity. I'm adding more of this blusher shade now. And that's actually quite beautiful. So let me get some more. Just a little bit more. There you go. Fantastic. So the color is now popping up. And I'm applying it in an upward motion as always. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, again, I have very round cheeks. And if I apply blush here, automatically it's going to give me the clown cheeks, and my under eye concealer is going to become a highlight. It's going to look too obvious. So as you guys can see with the brush, I'm actually just following the natural contours of my cheekbones, and I'm also following the area where I applied the contouring powder earlier, just so that they blend nicely together. Now, at any point of the makeup that you've seen that you've lost a little bit of the contouring on your face because you've blended out your blush or contouring products way too much, you can always go back and use the same brush that you used to apply the contouring powder, and you don't necessarily have to pick up more of the pigment from the pan because there's still enough left on the brush head, as you guys can see here. So what you can do is you can just apply the product with a brush on the same area, and you can also blend it. So it's actually still quite precise, and because of the very nice strong nature of the brush head here, it also helps to blend out the colors quite nicely on the face, but it doesn't disturb it. You can still see that the color of the blush is there, and the contouring powder is actually blending quite nicely. Look at that. Fantastic. Alright, so I believe we have come to the end of my vlog for today. So I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you guys how I actually use the Natasha Denona Contour Sculpting Powder. So if you have any questions on how I use these or any other makeup products that I use in my video today, please let me know down in the comments box and let's have a conversation about it. Alright? Okay, so that's it for me today. I'm going to let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye!